Today, we're diving deep into one of the most incredible, most iconic, and most enduring civilizations in all of human history. Let's get into the amazing 3,000-year story of ancient Egypt. Okay, first, let's just try to wrap our heads around that number. 3,000 years. That's more than 10 times longer than the United States has even existed. It's almost impossible to really grasp how long that is for one culture to not just hang on, but to flourish. So, that's the big question we're tackling today. How did they do it? What was their secret sauce? What was the foundation that let them build a legacy that, thousands of years later, we're still obsessed with? Well, the answer starts in the most logical place, with the land itself. Or, more specifically, with the incredible river that was the very heart of ancient Egypt. I mean, the Nile was literally everything. You've got the vast, unforgiving Sahara Desert, and then cutting right through it is this ribbon of life. Every year, like clockwork, it would flood, leaving behind this rich, black soil that made farming possible. It was their grocery store, their drinking fountain, and their main highway, all rolled into one. And here's a little detail that trips a lot of people up. Because the Nile flows north, from the heart of Africa out to the Mediterranean Sea, Upper Egypt is actually in the south, upstream, and Lower Egypt is in the north, where the delta is. It's a little counterintuitive, but it's the map they lived by. So you can imagine how this played out over millennia. People start farming along the river, then, as the climate gets harsher and the desert expands, more and more people are pushed into this narrow, fertile valley. Eventually, around 3100 BC, a powerful southern king, Narmer, conquers the north, unites the two lands, and in doing so creates something the world had never seen before, the very first nation-state. Now, 3,000 years is a huge amount of time, so historians break it down into three main periods of incredible strength and prosperity, kind of like three massive peaks with valleys of instability in between. These are the famous kingdoms. First up, you've got the Old Kingdom. This is the great age of the pyramid builders. Then comes the Middle Kingdom, which was a real cultural high point, a sort of renaissance for art and writing. And finally, the New Kingdom. This was Egypt's golden age, the peak of its power, when it was a true empire, stretching its influence for thousands of miles. So, who was running the show during all this? A long line of about 300 rulers that we call pharaohs. But you gotta understand, these weren't just kings. No, they were seen as actual gods on earth. They were the bridge between the people and the hundreds of gods they worshipped. And what a lineup of rulers. We're talking about some of the biggest names in history. You've got Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid. The strange, heretic king, Akhenaten, who tried to make everyone worship just one god. Of course, there's King Tut, the boy king, whose amazing tomb taught us so much. Ramses the Great, maybe the most powerful of them all. And it all ends with the brilliant Cleopatra, the very last pharaoh. But it wasn't just about powerful leaders. Egypt's staying power came from its sheer brain power. They came up with incredible innovations that didn't just shape their world, they shaped ours too. Take writing. They had two forms. Hieroglyphs are the ones everyone knows, those beautiful, detailed pictures carved into temple walls. But for day-to-day stuff, like taxes or letters, they had a much faster, cursive script called hieratic. Think of it as the difference between fancy calligraphy and everyday handwriting. And what did they write on? This is a total game changer. Papyrus. They figured out how to make this incredible, durable writing material from a reed that grew everywhere along the Nile. It was the world's first paper. In fact, that's where we get the word paper. This stuff completely changed how they ran their kingdom. Their practical genius was just astounding. They gave us the first 365-day calendar. They divided the day into 24 hours. Their understanding of geometry was so advanced they could build those massive pyramids with breathtaking accuracy. They even invented land surveying to redraw property lines after the Nile flooded each year. These weren't just theories. They were practical solutions that made their society work. So much of what we think of when we hear ancient Egypt, the pyramids, the mummies, the golden tombs, it all boils down to one single powerful idea. This quote says it all. Their belief in an afterlife wasn't just important, it was everything. And this core belief led to the whole incredible ritual of mummification. The main goal was to preserve the body so the person's spirit could find it again and live on in the next world. So they'd embalm it, wrap it, and then place it in a tomb packed with everything they'd need for eternity: food, furniture, games, you name it. And get this, the sheer scale of this practice is just mind-blowing. Some historians estimate that over those 3,000 years, Egyptians might have made as many as 70 million mummies. This wasn't just for the super rich. It was a deeply ingrained part of their culture for everybody. But as they say, all great empires must eventually come to an end. And after millennia of glory, Egypt's power began to fade, leading to its final chapter as a free nation. It wasn't one single event, but a long decline, sealed by a series of invasions. First, the Persians took over. Then came Alexander the Great, who was actually seen as a liberator and was even crowned pharaoh himself. But the final nail in the coffin came from the Romans. When Cleopatra died, the massive Roman Empire simply swallowed Egypt up, turning it into just another province. The age of the pharaohs was over. And really, the whole end of the era is perfectly captured in the tragic story of its last ruler. After losing everything, her kingdom and her love, Mark Antony, Cleopatra chose to end her own life. Her dramatic death really was the death of an independent Egypt. But here's the thing. Even though the empire fell, Egypt never really went away, did it? Its fingerprints are all over our modern world, in our calendars, our clocks, our math. And our fascination with their story, with the pyramids and the pharaohs, is as strong as it has ever been. Which just leaves us with one final incredible thought. For a civilization that lasted that long and built on such a massive scale, what else is out there? What other secrets and what other wonders are still waiting?